Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to welcome you back with us again. A lot of you have been asking, how do you avail yourself of all the previous episodes? And it's very simple. Go on YouTube, click on A Time for Truth show, hit the subscribe button. We'll be very happy to have you as a member. There's no fee, and you'll be availed of all the previous episodes over the last few years. And tonight, we're very honored and really so pleased that we have a human being who is so diverse, has experienced so much in his life, and is here with us. He's a very humble guy, unbelievable athlete. Richard Pee Wee Kirkland, believed to be the first player in New York City to perform a 360-degree turn on a move to the basket. He was inducted into the historic Black College University Hall of Fame, and at the Dwight School on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, his players called him Coach. At Long Island University, he was a professor teaching philosophy of basketball and coaching, and he was referred to as Professor Kirkland. In the late 60s, he was an all-city point guard at Manhattan's Charles Evans Hughes High School. And he, his sister, and two brothers were raised by two hard-working parents. But unfortunately, his family was poor, and the neighborhood that he was in was not the best in the world. But he continued, persisted, and received a scholarship to Cottrell Junior College, North Carolina, where he averaged 41 points a game, before moving on to Norfolk State, where he teamed with Bob Dandridge, a future NBA player, and was named to the all-tournament team at the NCAA Mid-East Regional in '67. The philosophy of that team with Pee Wee was basically to go so fast that the other team, I guess, would just give up and leave the gym. I'm telling you, he could dribble the ball baseline to baseline in about 3 seconds. And, you know, Bob McAdoo, who played on those Showtime teams of Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, said that Pee Wee had done Showtime years earlier, and he orchestrated at Norfolk State 20 years earlier. Quite a compliment. A great basketball player. In 1968, he was drafted by the Chicago Bulls And at that time, Sports Illustrated called him the fastest man in college basketball. From 68 to 71, he teamed with playground stars like Joe Hammond, Eric Cobb, and he matched skills at Rucker Park with Julius Erving, Tiny Archibald, Charlie Scott, and others. Archibald said of Pee Wee, he was the toughest opponent he ever faced. And he's so impressed the Knicks coach, Red Holtzman, that he invited him to try out for the Knicks. But unfortunately, he took a wrong turn, what happens to all of us in life, and ended up going the wrong way. But he never stopped and did a miraculous 180 in life, not in basketball, but in life, evolving from a Harlem gangster to an educator, coach, mentor, and returned to tell students and players that this is how you play basketball, a game I always won, and this is how you deal with life, a game I once lost. Everything is timing, he said. 30 years ago, I was part of the problem. But now, 30 years later, I'm part of the solution. It's really unbelievable statement. And Buddha, if you will, I want to bid a warm welcome to Mr. Richard Kirkland to A Time for Truth show. It's an honor to have you.
It's an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's unbelievable. You know, you're quite a human being. And I want to ask you, because just from seeing what you did and what these unbelievable basketball players said about you, you're a very humble guy. I've seen this, but how does it feel to have such a tremendous basketball ability?
Well, I ran 10 miles every day when I was young, like 15, 16, to be in shape. Even if it was snowing, I still did it. If it was raining, I still did it. Sometimes I did it and found out they changed the schedule. We had to play that night. It didn't even matter, because that's what the game meant to me. And I practiced. I just practiced so much. So I invented things like the crossover. Nobody had a crossover like I did. I think Iverson had the best crossover I've ever seen in my life. But the crossover I did, I mean, with both hands, left-handed, right-handed, front was backwards, and you know, and it began with like a zigzag. So sometimes I would zigzag, and the guys hit me like this here, and the crowd at Rucker be hollering, "Shake his neck off, stick man, shake his neck off." And I would freeze him on the crossover, and I just go to the basket and lay the ball up. But it's crazy because I was like so far ahead of the game, inventing things, and like even Rucker. I was the first person to lead Rucker in scoring in consecutive years. And nowhere did I ever play that I didn't lead everybody in scoring. All the professional guys, all the guys that was in the NBA, I led the league in scoring every year I played. I wasn't going to get most valuable, but that was okay. And I actually didn't want most valuable. I felt like I really wanted Joe to get it because we was in the backcourt together, and I really think me and him probably was the best backcourt to ever play the game. I'm the only one on the backcourt who actually scored 100 points a game. We used to tease them and say, well, we don't have no big men, and we always played against the much better players. So, but we figured we was all right because we were starting with 100 points. When I broke the record, I think with 64 or 65, the very next game, he broke my record. Well, that's because that's how close we was and committed to wanting to see each other end up being great players. Once he told me, he said, you know, I watched you play when I was younger, He said, and I said to myself, you know what? I am going to develop my game. So one day, me and Pee Wee Kirkland will be able to play next to each other. And that's what he did. Because he basically, I don't know nobody that shot a basketball as consistent as Joe Hammond did. I mean, his shooting percentage may have been 60 on a bad night, but 70 and 75 mostly all the time. Curry is the best shooter in the league when it comes to the distance he shoots from. But the truth of the matter, the fact of the matter is, if one of us back in my time took a shot from where Curry shoots from, we'd be on the bench. Even if the shot went in, we would be on the bench. Because back then they had rules and regulations, and you had to play the game. Especially if you're the point guard, that means you the coach on the court. So you start shooting from a distance, it throws everything off unless you can shoot from that distance. And back then nobody did it, so it wasn't a question. It just was a lot of competition. And I think at that time, that was a golden era. And what we proved is that the game of basketball really did come from street basketball players. I mean, the Knicks was always a good team, but people would rather see us at Rucker than to see the Knicks playing against other professional players, because it was a different game.
Amazing. Well, you know, I was going to ask you, because you're really amazing in all the things that you've done and accomplished. So, but I know you have so much more just in basketball to give the viewers. So now you have all this, but then somehow it doesn't go quite right, but you made it right. But what happened that you went from what you had, and then somehow you made a wrong turn?
Well, I made a wrong turn before mostly everything. I mean, I started out kind of, everybody's saying he's going to be a pro. He's going to be a pro, unbelievable basketball player. Look how he handled the ball, you know. So I was always thinking that could happen, but I always had another mindset that I wanted to change the reality of how my family was living. And I was kind of smart at the time, so I could look and see we was never poor, but I just wanted more. And things I saw that they didn't have, and I could look at my aunt, my grandmother, and say, from the generations going up, I could tell nothing had changed. So I kept saying to myself in my mind that I wanted to be the person to make that change. So I went from selling newspapers on the weekend, probably about 13, 14, from selling newspapers on the weekend to maybe, I don't know, maybe two for 2 months. And then I was taking medallions off yellow cabs. And that was the beginning of me listening to a friend of mine and trying to figure out what he meant when he said to me, we were sitting down, when he walked over to me, he said, wow, man, you know, if you could roll these dice like you could dribble that basketball, we'll make a lot of money. That's where it really started. And then I started learning a lot about how to gamble, how to never lose gambling, if you know what that means. But then after that, it came to us with the medallions, and then after that, it came to jewelry stores, and you know, and it just all happened so fast. And next thing I know, because I was, like I said, I always kind of had, I don't know, like a third sense or something. And in the jewelry reality, I realized that when I went to buy a ring from a jeweler, I knew stones and things like that because my mother used to always make me understand the things I asked her, because my father father was very wealthy, but he didn't get along with him. And his wife was white. So when I went to see him, and right now today I don't remember my name, but I just know Grandma. That's what I call her. And I know she made the best sweet potato pie I ever tasted in my life. But because he didn't get along with his father when we got there, he'd always make me go sit in a limousine, sit outside, and I would read magazines and look at them, and that's when I began to learn things that I ordinarily shouldn't have learned at that age. I wanted to know why this furniture was this way when it didn't look like expensive furniture. It turned out it was antiques. I wanted to understand diamonds. Why was this a green color? Why was this a red color? And my mother was pretty intelligent. She had graduated from college, so she used to always make me understand them things, and they was always in my mind. What is this house? I don't understand. It's not a building. No, it's a house. Why is this house bigger than that one? It's called a mansion. So I learned all them things, and they became visions in my mind of what I want in life. And with the diamond dealer, I bought a diamond ring from him, and he told me to go across the street to get it appraised. So I said, I don't need it appraised. He said, yeah, you do need it appraised. Watch what they tell you. So I said, okay. So when I walked to go across the street, I looked up at the window and I could see that somebody opened the blind up, was looking at us. So when I went to the third floor and I looked out the window, I could see the jury store where we were standing. And I was thinking that, I wonder if this guy is sending me to this guy, and the guy gonna tell me what he wanted him to say to me. So when I came back, he told me that, I told him I didn't want the ring no more. He said, you already paid for it. I said, no, you told me go across the street to get it appraised. So he then told me, yeah, no, I will sell it back to you, but you're gonna lose $5,000 less than what you gave me. So I said, you're not gonna just take my money like that. So then he said, it's nothing else you can do. So he gave me my money less than $5,000. When I walked out the window, the door, it was a crate. It used to have milk carts. That's what it's called it. And I took the crate and threw it in the window and broke the window. And when the window broke, I'm standing back because I know what glass will do. So I'm standing back, and then when it stopped, I took brooches because I know jewelry, so I wouldn't take brooches and single stones. I took out the window. So now that was the first time.
Wow.
And then when I read the newspapers, I think it said, it was cover the paper or next page. I'm sitting there looking at it and I said, what? It said that the insurance company, I think, gave them $500,000 for a robbery. And I'm saying, no. What I took didn't cost nowhere near that much. So then the next time I went down there, I did take the jewelry, but I took a lot of jewelry. But when I walked outside, I was with somebody who was friends. She said, come on, let's go. I said, no, you go. He said, no, we got to get out of here, Pew. Come on, man. I said, no, you go. I didn't go. So I walked back in the jewelry store because I was waiting to hear sirens or the police coming. They didn't come. So I told the jeweler, which is in the major motion picture of my life, that's going to come out after the documentary. You'll see it. So I told him, I said, you know what? I said, where's the police? He said, they'll be, baby. I don't want to see you get arrested. You know, you're a nice youngster, man. We like you, respect you, but you're going to get arrested if you stay. I said, no, I don't think so. So I went and said it in his office. And he said, got to get out of here. They're going to be here in a minute. And you're not going to be able to get out the door. There's no back way out of here. I said, I'm not going to have to leave. He said, why? I said, because I don't think they're coming. And I think me and you are going to end up being partners.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's interesting, like how you were already different at that time. And I wanted to ask you a question because You know, you mentioned, and we were talking about how you felt, how you grew up in a neighborhood where some of the people that you grew up around really didn't make it in life, and they went different directions, and that prison makes a man feel like a loser. But then in 1974, you score 135 points. You make headlines all across the U.S. on what you did.
No, what happened was I scored 100 points.
100 points.
And we started getting letters, especially them, from Seattle, Washington, from all over.
Yeah.
And they had never really been successful at almost anything in their life, you know.
These men that you put together,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. But this was the biggest thing, and they were saying to me, Pee Wee, you don't understand, man. This never happened before. And could you do it again? And I said, again? They said, please, one more time. And then I scored the next game 135.
135 points.
Yeah, the next game.
Unbelievable. So now, so it's just like you take 13 guys who didn't have confidence, who had no hope,
Right.
and yet you made this unbelievable team. So obviously, you already had something inside of you at that point. And when you got out and you were released, I want to ask you something, because you didn't go back. A lot of people, you know, they go back, they don't change. You totally changed, and you started educating kids and youth who were on the streets where you grew up. How did that happen?
Well, you know, it happened because of why I went there. I went there for conspiracy, for knowledge of a crime, because I'd never been to Boston in my life, and I didn't know about nothing was going on in Boston. So when I saw myself get 15 years, you know, it just, especially when in the courtroom, I told the DA when I was walking out of the courtroom, I said, you know, I wasn't guilty. And he said to me, you know, it's not like you had a 9 to 5. And that bill, normally the average person, it would be a bad thing. I mean, I never forget his words, because I thought to myself, you know what? He's right. Because, well, in their mind, it didn't matter how they brought me to justice. They just knew that I had no business having the kind of money I had, no business at all being considered the Bank of Harlem, no business riding Rolls Royces, Ferrari, Lamborghinis, man. I mean, every car James Bond had in the movie, I would buy the cars. Cotton come to Harlem, I would buy the cars. Almost every car that they had in the movies, I would buy. So I just, instead of grieving about it, I just said, you know what? I made a mistake. I won't make that mistake again as long as I live. And I knew the second time, and the Senator Brooks told me, he said, we know you're not innocent, but you can plead guilty and try to get less time, but you can't beat the case, because without you being the person who had knowledge of everything and the mastermind behind this, like they thought, it wouldn't be a case. So you're gonna lose the case no matter what. So I said, all right, I pled guilty. But what I didn't do was, I didn't blame them. I blamed myself. And yeah, I blamed myself. And everything I ever did in my life, I don't care what it was, I always blamed myself.
You took responsibility.
Always.
You
no
know,
matter what.
as I sit here talking to you, the thing that comes across, I think the viewers probably see it, is you have such a smooth, easygoing character, and it's almost as if there was a plan and God put you through in your life to put you in all these different venues. And what I wanted to ask you, because you started a school of skills, right? Basketball?
Yeah.
So I want to concentrate on what you did, because you went through so much, but you can almost understand why. But now you come out and you start this. So I want to talk a little bit more about that because, you know, I think it's important to your example is unbelievable. So what was in your mind and what was driving you when you built this school of skills?
Well, I knew I was never going to play basketball again myself, you know, ever, you know, so, and I knew I loved the game. So the only way I could feel appreciation and my love for the game was to help young people. And that's what I did, School of Skills. We got a youngster right now, 11 years old, and he just broke a record. 11 years old, scoring 41 points.
You feel like he's like almost like your adopted son, or?
Well, no, all of them, all the kids
All of
become
them?
like that, you know, all of them.
They're like your kids, right?
Yeah, that's right, all of them. And
Now, I'm curious, are you tough on them or you're easy on them?
I'm as tough as you could ever be on them, you know what I mean? But that's what make people who they are in life. But they know how much I love them. And when people, and that's what people want. Everybody wants that coach that's a tough coach, but deep down inside, you know that he loves you. That's like the coach that taught me how to play. I remember the first time I was dribbling the ball down the court and not looking up, but he threw a piece of wood with an iron thing at the end of it, and it hit the wall, and it bang, 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 and it fell. And I stopped and looked, and I said, man, look, I don't understand, man. You could have killed me with that piece of iron in there. He said, no, you're killing yourself. And the next time you dribble a basketball, make sure your eyes are up that court before the ball touches the ground, else you'll never be a point guard. And,
Wow.
and guess what? He was right, because I never ever would dribble again when I get a pass. That's why I was always so good at what I was doing, because I just learned everything the way he taught it to me, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you what, we're going to have another show with you next week. There's so much we got to cover still, but we don't have any time left on the show. But I want to do one thing, and with us on the show here as we end off, you know, I know your nickname they gave you was Richard P. Wee Kirkland, but on this show, I want to actually propose we change that to Richard Master Mentor Kirkland, because you know what, man, to me, you're a master. You took what happened, you became a mentor, and you know, on this show, at least for now, I'm going to say Richard Master Mentor Kirkland. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you know, it's almost like you tell them they want to do anime movies called Mastermind, from
Look at that.
exactly what you're saying.
Look at that.
You know
I
what
didn't
mean?
know that.
Yeah, they
Well,
do.
this is it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe they make you Master Mentor. Because I think what you're doing with these kids and what you're
yes.
going to do with that movie is going to mentor people.
Yeah, and the movie's a good movie, and the movie just showed how, you know, I would never change my mind once I said I was going to do something. And I promised myself, because United Prisoners International, when I went to prison, they said they wanted to get me out. The warden wouldn't let them, it's a maximum security prison, so the warden wouldn't let them come in. They sent pamphlets for me to fill out to do my life story.
But I tell you what, I know you and I will talk forever. Let me ask you a question.
That's right.
Can we get you back next week and we'll talk about your movie, documentary, and all that? Is that all right?
Sure.
All right. So,
Yeah.
you know, unfortunately, we've run out of time for this show. I'm sure you had as much enjoyment and learned so much from Mr. Kirkland as I have. And take a lesson from him. You can always do a 180, a 360 in life. It's never too late. Follow his example. You can do it. We'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Good night.
This show was sponsored by Atimefortruthfoundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet